Hi, I'm Sarah. Welcome back to my channel where I talk about my journey to sustainable health and meaningful success. If you're coming back and you've already subscribed, welcome back. Y'all are my people and I love you so much. And if you're new, I hope you'll consider subscribing by the end of this video. Today, we're taking it easy like a Sunday morning because I just woke up. I'm getting ready to go over to a friend's house. We're going to swim in their pool and eat some tacos and watch Hamilton because I've never seen it before. And it's just going to be a fun day. And I just kind of wanted to put on a little bit of makeup because, you know, what goes well with a swimming pool other than black mascara. I just kind of wanted to do that. And I wanted to talk to you guys about what I recently read, which is the 5 Love Languages, the Singles Edition, by Gary Chapman. And I really thought that it was a profound book. His original book was written for married couples. I actually have that one too. So it's the purple book, but I read the red book because I am a single Pringle and wanted to just know how to love my friends and family better, and my coworkers and everybody that I encounter. Love is not only for like romance, love is for everybody. And I think that personally, my definition of success is living every day in love, joy, and peace. That was something that coming out of Amway was really important to me, to just focus on the day-to-day, living every day as a bucket list kind of a day, where literally if it was my last day on earth, I would have been satisfied with the way that I treated people and with the way that I acted and the way that I treated myself, all of that. So, for me, I get excited about learning how to love people better, or how to have more joy and how to have more peace and share that with other people, because the world is in desperate need of all of those things. So that's what I read about. If you're not familiar with the 5 love languages, the 5 love languages are words of affirmation, gifts, quality time, physical touch, and acts of service. So throughout the book, you kind of have in mind what love languages you speak and what love languages you receive better. So for me, I'm really good at spending quality time with people, and that is my main love language for anybody that I come in contact with. The more time I spend with someone, the more, like, the closer I feel with them, and just the more intimate our relationship can get. So for me, quality time is really huge, and then physical touch is very impactful for me, but it's not, I don't receive physical touch from like everybody I meet. My gosh. Also, COVID. So physical touch is a little bit more specific for me, but coming from the right person, a hug or just an assuring like touch on my shoulder, it's like my love, my heart overfloweth. So those are my love languages. Please let me know in the comments below what your love languages are. The other 3 are acts of service, words of affirmation, and gifts. I think gifts and acts of service are the hardest for me to give. Probably because acts of service, I guess I don't really think of, if I know that something needs to be done for someone else and I can do it, I'm happy to do that. But I'm not I really need to get better at being creative in finding ways to serve people. But like, if someone asks me for like a ride from the airport, or if they need, me to pick something up along the way to their house, like my mom asks me to do that a couple times, like, can you swing by Walmart and grab blah, blah, blah. And that, for me, is like, yes, I'm absolutely happy to do that, but I need to get better at, actually being proactive in acts of service. And then gifts haven't been something, I receive gifts super well. I love receiving gifts, but giving gifts isn't something that I generally think of either. I think that's because my family isn't really like a gift-giving type family, although I think my little brother, I think his main, one of his main love languages is gifts, and I would like to love everybody in my life, but I'm like, the wheels are turning with regards to him being a gifts person. I don't know that for sure though, but that's why reading that book was actually really helpful, because it kind of gives you ideas of how to pick up on what other people's love languages are. And the reason why it's important not to just be a good human and be a decent person for everybody in your life, but to actually specifically know how they give and receive love best. The reason why that's so important is because you could do something that for you it would be extremely meaningful, but for the person that's receiving that love, it might not register as deeply or as profoundly as actually speaking their personal love language. For example, I go over to my mom's house every week and I spend time with her. Quality time is my primary love language, and I think it's one of her primary love languages too. So it's like, it's mutually a really great thing for our relationship. However, I know that her like primary love language is acts of service. And growing up, that was a really hard thing to, for me to communicate to her because of my inward rebellion and not wanting to do chores. Because that's what that came across as. For me, I wasn't thinking growing up, if I, cleaned my room, my mom would feel more loved from me and receive that as love from me. It was more just like, she's telling me what to do and I don't want to do it. You know what I mean? So, so now, as a grown-ass woman, I have to set aside whatever teenage rebellion that was and actually be like, no, when I go over to her house for dinner, when I help her clean up after dinner and when I unload the dishwasher while she's washing dishes, like for me, I'm just doing that because that's a decent thing to do for someone who just made you dinner. But for her, I know that that's like, we are spending quality time, but it's like even more impactful because there's an act of service involved in that, and I think that that's really cool. But yeah, I think that when I'm more in tune to other people's love languages and know like what is really impactful for other people, it makes me really appreciate that even more. For instance, yesterday I had a couple friends over. They're more like sisters because we grew up together. And the first thing that my friend did when she walked through my door was give me this little book thing. It's like a Bible study type thing, and she's just like, I've been thinking about you and like thinking that maybe you would appreciate this because like I'm trying to work on my spiritual journey, as we probably all are in some capacity or another, and your girl struggles tremendously with a lot of questions. So the fact that she thought of me and she gave me that gift, like, that was knowing that her love language is gifts. Because when I had my miscarriage, as soon as she found out, like, within a week, she was over at my place with a little gift for me. And knowing that her love language is gifts, I felt even more loved because I know that that's how she communicates her most impactful, love language. And so, yeah, we spent a lot of quality time. I made her dinner, and it was a really great time. And for me, I know that, like, my love tank, which is what it's referred to in the book, my love tank was so full from spending quality time with my friends, but also it was even more full knowing that I had received a gift from her. And it's like I'm gearing my mind up because now I'm like, okay, her love language is gifts. What can I do that would be more impactful than just, spending time with someone? But yeah, that's why words of affirmation is probably like my middle love language. And so, like, just to recap what they are, it's like quality time, physical touch, words of affirmation, acts of service, and gifts. And words of affirmation for me really hit home when I know that that person is speaking really genuinely and they're not just like trying to flatter me. And to be honest, let me just have a heart-to-heart with this camera right now, knowing that I'm speaking to all of the people who regularly watch my videos and subscribe and comment and all that. Your comments actually really do hit home, especially like there have been a couple that I've even screenshotted because I'm like, I want to remember this comment. This was so impactful to me. And it, like, when I say, you just made my day, like, that actually just made my day. Like, Teresa Hadid, or I think that's what your name is. Thank you for all of your encouraging words. I screenshotted one of your comments recently because I was like, oh my gosh, it hit home. And another person who commented was, I think your name is Unbothered Melanated Queen. Oh, first of all, that name though, love it. But also, your comment was just so impactful to me. And those words of affirmation, speaking through a YouTube channel where you don't really have any like face-to-face interaction, it's not like we're gonna spend quality time together except for just like talking to a camera with my introverted self, letting you know all my feelings. But really the only way that you guys express love to me is through words of affirmation, and actually that really is impactful. I know, like YouTube and the YouTube algorithm and engagement on my videos and all of that, that is very important to me. To me, that is kind of like a gift or an act of service. But at the same time, like, those words of affirmation really do hit home. So, I don't know, just kind of getting familiar with all the different ways we express love, and also recognizing that everybody kind of receives and gives love differently, is kind of an interesting thing, especially when it's like, if you feel like you're not loved. And I mean, I know that sounds like such a depressing thing to say, but I think honestly there are times where we really feel like we lack love in our lives, especially as a single person, probably. I don't know if that's as true for people who are in like committed, like romantic relationships, but when we feel like we are lacking relationships, or when our relationships are unsatisfactory in any capacity, I think that studying the love languages and studying what kind of things that you can do that would actually be more impactful and more effective to expressing love to the people in our lives, that's actually a really effective thing. It gets the attention off of yourself, while also kind of allowing you to see what exactly in your life is missing, and how you can search that out in like seeking to refill your love tank. Because something that this book points out is like when someone is not feeling loved, what exactly were those interactions? For instance, someone whose love language is words of affirmation takes criticism much harder than anybody else because words matter more to them. Obviously, we generally try not to be crappy about the words that we speak to other people. But knowing that, especially if you have a child whose love language is words of affirmation, then there's a whole different way that you can communicate with your kid whose love language is words of affirmation, and there's specific considerations that need to be taken in order to not crush their spirit when criticizing them or when correcting them. These are all very important things to consider in terms of speaking love to people. And if you have multiple kids, this is all covered in the book, because singles also include single parents. So they talk about interacting with your kids and learning your kids' love languages. And that was, I think, was really insightful. The fact that it's if you have two kids and one of your kids, their love language is gifts and one of them is quality time, they both might not respond the same way if you take them on a fishing trip. Because the quality time kid is going to feel like their love tank is overflowing because of all the one-on-one attention and all the quality time that you spent with them. Whereas your other kid whose love language is gifts would actually feel much more loved if you brought home a little, trinket from something. If you actually brought home a rock that you got from your fishing trip and you were like, I thought of you when I, saw this really cool rock. And all of a sudden that gift to that kid is even more impactful, and they'll save that, and that becomes one of their treasures. You know what I mean? So I think that that's exciting to start looking at your different relationships in a more insightful way and start loving people more effectively based on what their personal things are. You know what I mean? So, and I guess in terms of relationships that are really hard to keep up with or really hard to that are just giving you challenges. I think that long distance for me, so my best friend is long distance from me. She lives in California, I live in Wisconsin. We will only really see each other once a year, and that sucks majorly, especially because I think both of our love languages are quality time. So it's even more important that we connect regularly over FaceTime and, have really good conversations long distance. Whereas, in terms of romantic relationships, I can imagine that would be really hard. In fact, if that's something that's on your mind, if you can drop down in the comments what your thoughts are on long distance relationships, in terms of romance, I think that would be a really interesting. I would really be interested in reading your comments about that. Actually, I'm not in a long distance relationship, but I think that those are one of the biggest challenges to human relationships, is actually just having that long distance, and that's been made more available and more possible via technology. But for someone whose love language is physical touch, how does that work? The book suggests a couple things. I know one of them was just kind of verbalizing how you would be, if I were there with you, I'd be giving you a huge hug, or, I'd love to just be holding your hand right now. You know what I mean? Like that. But I don't know. That would seem really hard. I don't know how I could do a long distance relationship. I think it's possible, but Or families who have spouses or significant others in the military. Oh my gosh, that is a huge sacrifice. You talk about being willing to pay the ultimate price for your country and all that, and indeed, yes, God bless the troops. But that whole dynamic with significant others and long distance relationships and also like that added pressure and stuff, I can't imagine that. I feel like I'm just ranting at this point, which this is what all of my Get Ready With Me videos are reduced to, so what did you expect? The last Get Ready With Me video I did was, I think, over Christmas, or maybe that one time when I talked about therapy. That was really a fun one to film. If you are attracted to my Amway content and you haven't already, there is a podcast that I did an interview for. It's called A Stillness, and it's a Patreon podcast. I'll link it down below. But in this podcast, she asked me basically like what I was doing to move forward from Amway and how my goals and my perspective has shifted since leaving Amway. And the biggest thing that I talked about was the fact that it's not about material possessions anymore for me. It's not about how lavish my life gets or anything like that. Whatever status I could achieve, like I really am still attracted to a very wealthy lifestyle. I'm still attracted to achieving that material like success. So don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to be some sort of like Gandhi, Mother Teresa type person who's like, if I just love every day. But at the same time, I think when it's like, when push comes to shove, when it all just comes down to the most important thing, I really do think that learning to love people and spread love, joy, and peace to other people is the most important thing that a human could do with their lives, because those are the intangible things that transcend generations, and those are the things that pierce people's hearts and make life-changing impacts that doesn't just affect yourself. And I want to live life in a very wide way. Like, I want my life to affect a lot of people and in a positive way. So that's why I'm really interested in this kind of stuff. So let me know in the comments below what your love languages are, and how you guys deal with long distance relationships. Again, thank you all so much for your words of affirmation in the comments. And just thank you for being good human beings and joining me on this journey. I love you all so much. So I'm going to go to the pool party now, because I'm a cool kid doing cool kid things. Okay.